Hello everyone, and welcome to Tormont's first ever virtual roadshow event. My name is Brian Davis and I will be your host for today's session. Today we're going to take a look at three very versatile machines who have recently undergone pretty significant changes. We're going to start off with the 315 GC small excavator, then we're going to go to the new D3 small dozer, then we're going to show you the 420 XE backhoe loader. So we're going to give you a walk around of each of the machines, talk about some of the features. We'll get up into the cab and show you what the operators will experience on each one of them. So let's jump off into the 315 GC, and for that I've enlisted the help of Caterpillar product specialist Brian Kane from Peoria, Illinois, to help us go through the 315 GC. So Brian, thank you for accepting our invitation today, and I'm going to pass things off. Over to you, Brian.
Well, thank you for joining us, Tormont Cat. I'd like to welcome you to Caterpillar Edwards Demonstration Learning Center. We're located here in Edwards, Illinois, which is about in the central of Illinois itself. My name is Brian Kane. I'm a demonstrator instructor here for Caterpillar, and today we're going to focus on our 315 GC machine. What GC means, so we'll give you a little bit of information on what GC means for this machine. If anybody's used to the F series or E series of these machines, this 315 GC will perform exactly the way those machines do. There's no restrictions for this GC machine to have on the front of it. So if we want to put a thumb on this machine, if we want to put a breaker or a grapple, anything that we were used to putting on any other type of machine, we're able to put that on this machine and have controllability of that throughout the work cycle. Anything else with the GC machine, we still have a lot of options on this machine. We have low operating and owner costs. So it's a simple machine. It doesn't have all the technology that the premium may have, but the operator is able to get into the seat and operate it and run it. We still have the same ground level checks on this machine that we have in our traditional ones. So we can check the oil, we can check those fluids from ground level just like we would on any other machine. So today we're going to give a little bit of walk around of this machine and kind of point out some of those key features. You may see some similarities between all these next-gen excavators, even into the GC model. So we'll get started on this machine and we'll give a little bit of brief description of what we're going to do. As you can see, we have a blade on this machine. So with this blade, we have a cutting edge on the machine. We're able to flip that cutting edge and get to maybe some longer life. It's flippable. We undo the bolts. We have some different GET on the machine. As you can see, the replacement parts. So if one goes, we can just replace one. We don't have to replace all of them for sure. Talk the blade options. This is an option that we can put on the machine. So versatility, maybe even some stability on the machine. It may help the operator out there in the field for sure. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about the tracks. So on this machine, we have three different options. The standard version is a 28-inch wide track. We have a 24-inch wide track and a 20-inch wide track also availability. As we kind of walk through this machine, we'll get to the cab here in a little bit. But the same commonality that we would see in these machines, we still have our steps on here. So 3 points of contact as we kind of get up in the machine. They're welded on. Still the same undercarriage that we'd see on a 315, and again it's got that extended longer undercarriage on it, which helps with stability on this machine also. Walking around to the side of the machine, we have here in this compartment, you can see it's kind of opened up quite a bit. Again, with these machines being electronic over hydraulic now, it opens up a ton of room in these machines. Even though this is a compact radius machine, there's still a lot of room back here. They really shoved this forward so we can kind of get into those tight areas that we're working in. Commonality of these machines from say a 313 size to a 317 size are engine air filters. They're all common. So with that being parts commonality is a good thing for the customer. Whenever those need replaced, it'll come up onto the monitor and that way we know when to replace those. We have our our master switch here. So this is a Tier 4 final machine. If anybody's familiar with the Tier 4 final and the depth fluid that's on these machines, we have the amber light that's on here. So as an operator, mainly all we need to think about in training, we're talking about this, if the amber light is on, we just don't want to shut the master switch off. It lets everything purge back into the tank, into the system, cleans all the lines out. That's one of the things we need to look for sure. The other thing we'd be looking for up here is we have our coolant, our radiator coolant fluid. So again, that's a sight gauge with these machines. Like anything, it's a sight gauge that you would look at to see if he or she needed to put that in there. We can check that right there. We have all our fans here that we're able to look at, see what kind of debris and dust is in there. That'd be what we would need to look at inside of this compartment. Coming around to the back of the machine, we have our reverse camera. So I said earlier about a GC machine. Standard on these machines, we have 2 cameras. We have one in the back, and we have one, I'm going to say, on the right-hand side as you're sitting in the machine. This is tucked way up inside the counterweight now, where it's kind of out of harm's way if we're working in debris of maybe trees or anything else. Again, most of the time we want to try and keep our counterweight away from things, but this is really tucked up back inside of here. With just a couple bolts, we're able to take that out if we did need to replace this, but it's really tucked up in here, which is very, very good for the operators. Get over to the other side of our compartments here. Again, this is all ground level track, so no having to climb up into the machine. Slip, trips, and falls is a huge thing. With our engine oil dipstick, it's at ground level with the compact radius machines. If anybody's used to maybe a 20-ton size or a 17-ton size machine, you may see those inside here. It's kind of tucked away here a little bit, but we're able to look at that for sure. Here we're looking at our fuel water separator. Again, this is mainly as a canister style now. We're able to have visibility down here to where maybe you may see some white or some gunk into this machine that we may need to drain this. Depends on kind of water maybe we get into this fuel filter or fuel system. We have the ability to drain that down. We have a hose that comes down below that we're able to get that collected if we need to. But it's pretty nice. It's pretty easy to do to get rid of all the contaminants that we would need to. From a maintenance standpoint, engine oil filter, so we're able to change that from ground level. Again, it's more of a canister style or filter inside of here that we're able to change. We have a nice little drain plug that we can drain that, whatever's left inside of here, into a can or whatever we need to do. We have our ports that we're able to check our engine oil, take a sample out of any of those. They're all labeled very clear. Commonality, yellow would be engine oil. And there's some other commonalities in the machine, as I talked about a little bit of our engine oil dipstick, so it's yellow also. Very, very simple to read if you're used to kind of looking at those things. Again, we can always look at our OMM if we need to. Hydraulic oil check, we have this in a certain position, so just remember this machine, we want our boom and bucket and stick it in this position to check our hydraulic oil so it's right. As you notice inside of this machine, even though it's a compact radius, we have the back of it tucked way in, right? So we're able to get in those tight spots. You'll notice in here there's still quite a bit of room. So no more pilot filter, no more of those pilot valves that are in here. They've been taken out, so we have electronic controls now. We have the ability to even lower this down a little bit more so the operator is able to have a little bit more visibility in these machines with taking everything out of here, even though it's a compact radius. As we come around to the right side of the machine, standard on the right side of the machine, we talked a little bit about this machine being GC. So again, we still have 2 standard cameras on here. We have our reverse camera tucked up into the counterweight. We have this side camera on here. In our monitor, we have an 8-inch monitor inside the machine. We're able to toggle back and forth between a split view, a side view, or just the back view, whatever the operator may like to look at. Again, this is standard on the GC machine. Helps out definitely on visibility to this side of the machine. Some people think this is the blind side of the machine, so it's a good option to have these on here. And again, that comes standard with the GC machine. As we come towards the front of the machine, depends on how tall we are, but for the most part, we're able to add our fuel from ground level, okay? Pretty nice feature. Again, if we needed to get up, we have our handhelds to get up, 3 points of contact. If we needed to kind of get up on top of the machine to add engine oil with this. And then the other thing that's taken out of here now, we don't have our swing motor dipstick anymore. So with these machines, the 313 to the 317 ton machine, it's all hydraulic oil inside of there now. So no more dipstick that the operator needs to kind of get up there and check and look at. It's inside, it's all hydraulic oil now. So that's been taken out. It's been around, it's been in a lot of our wheeled excavator machines, so it's been proven. So you should have no worries when it comes to that. Coming around to this side of the machine, it's a curved now. We've kind of cut that off a little bit. But here's our depth fluid. Here's where we would check that. We have a couple different ways inside the machine. We have a gauge, or we have this feature right here that kind of tells us what's inside of here or if it's full or not. As we're filling it up, we're able to look at this sight gauge as we kind of go through here, and it tells us where we are. Blue cap, kind of the same thing, commonality on all of our machines. For this depth, we have our symbol on here that kind of looks at, that tells us what this is. Plastic tank, commonality on these machines. And then we have this spill guard. This is a pretty good thing because sometimes we kind of get in here and we're not sure if we're using a jug, especially if we have the jug type and we're filling this up. Sometimes we do have a little bit of spills in here. So having this catch-all or catch guard on here with the hose that comes down and it goes underneath here to the tracks, it keeps that corrosive material away from some of this metal in here to help us out in the long run, for sure. Coming onto the machine, again, if we had to get up into the top, we have a nice step here, 3 points of contact. That's a huge thing, but it's a nice, easy get up onto if we needed to get up there. As we come around to the front of the machine, we talk a little bit about the quick coupler that's on here. This is an option. It doesn't come standard, but this is an option that we have on these machines, hydraulic driven quick coupler. These in operations, easeability of operating one of these. We'll have a little demonstration here in a little bit on how this works. But this is something we want to look at for sure. With this being said, grease points, clean out points. So with these machines, especially on a quick coupler, if we do not grease them or use them, a lot of times they may get seized up. So it's a very good opportunity to be able to get in here, clean out what we need as far as hoses and lines, and then grease those machines to grease that so that we have our quick coupler working for us. Kind of the linkage, we'll talk a little bit about that. If we have a lot of E and F size machines that maybe we have an old bucket that we just really like to use, different style bucket or a different work tool on this machine, again, this linkage, it's going to couple up to whatever we may have on an E and F series. So commonality is a good thing to be able to hook up to those work tools. And then we have our lifting point. Our lifting point on this machine with the quick couplers, a good practice in the field. Mainly we would take the bucket off and then we would hook onto this lifting eye to be able to hook up whatever we're trying to lift. So that way we get the bucket out of our way. Safety wise, that's a huge thing. And having this lifting eye on here is a great thing. As we kind of get back into the cab of the machine, with this being a compact radius machine, 315 GC again, what you'll see is our boom. So our boom is kind of tucked back into this machine. It kind of gives it a low center of gravity. It's kind of pushed back a little bit so that we're able to lift those structures that we need to lift to in the field. Having that boom kind of back into the center, it gives us a low center of gravity. We're able to really lift our heavy structures and move those around. Grease points, they're all over this machine. If we need to figure out where our engine oil dipstick is, where some of these grease points are that we don't know throughout a machine. Again, we have our OMM that we can look at, or we have our nice little decal on here that we can look at and kind of go through even so much our oil changes, when we should look at those. So it's a good added features on here. A lot of visibility. The hoses, again, this blade, it's an option, but they do have a lot of guarding on it. So getting into debris that we need to maybe look at if we're pushing or dragging some material, it's all guarded there for us. That would be our walk around on the exterior of the machine. Mainly we would want to try and get into the cab now, and we would look at that. We talked a little bit earlier about a GC compared to maybe our standard machines. Same look and feel inside these machines. The only difference you may see, mechanical seat. So how we adjust those is a little bit mechanical compared to the air seat if we're used to those in the premium model. And then same type of scenarios for adjusting the seat. Over here on the right side, we have a lever that we're able to mainly move the seat forward and back with our joysticks. And then this one here, it gives us a little bit more room too, as we would need. So everybody, as an operator, you're kind of like, you want to sit close to maybe your control pedals or not, but you're able to have the ability to move that back and forth and really get some good features. So long days, long nights, early in the morning, we have the light cab that comes on. As we open the door, that comes on. We have good visibility to whatever may be inside the cab. Our safety switch down here, this is our fuel shut off. All the excavators have those. If case of an emergency, all this would do is just shut our fuel off with this machine. So as we get into the cab, again, we have our foot down there, 3 points of contact. Real easy to get into these machines. As we get into the cab, we see a lot of glass around this machine. So visibility is huge. Whatever he or she is doing throughout the day, they're able to see most everything that they need to see. Again, we have our side camera if we need to. We have our 8-inch monitor, which we'll go through in a little bit, but we have different views that we can look at it on those also. With that being said, we have our seat belt over here on the right-hand side. It's got an orange bright stripe on it, so everybody knows that we have our seat belt on, get strapped in, we're ready to work throughout the day. Push button start. So everybody's kind of familiar with the push button start now on our next gen excavators or the excavator machines. It's the same thing that you would see on any other machine that we have. We're able to turn that on. Our 8-inch monitor comes on. It's going to check what the machine's doing. It's going to tell us what kind of mode we're on, just like we're used to in our other machines. Monitor to still be the same thing we would see. Again, this is kind of the view that we looked at. We're able to scroll through those reverse cameras either while we're waiting for the machine to start or just to kind of see what we need to look at. It goes through all those different things that we're looking for. Still has the standard jog dial that we're used to. Rather than reaching up and touching whatever we need to do on a touchscreen display, just like maybe your new car, you're able to use the jog dial to kind of go through all those motions also, just as you would use in an automobile. So pretty neat feature if you don't want to take your hands up here. All those controls that we're used to on the next gen excavators, moving the radio from back here up to the front, we have all those control abilities. We have our throttle jog dial on here, our throttle turn dial on here also, that we're able to whatever RPMs we would like. Going kind of into the monitor a little bit itself, those same things that we're used to seeing. So if we started off in guest mode and let's say we wanted to change to an operator, we can go into those and change those in the settings. Operator setting, we could change an operator. We have a program that's already put in here, and that way all these buttons and all the joysticks do exactly what I would like. The operator setting one, that was the one I would like to kind of point out a little bit here on mainly the lever pattern changer. So it depends on what he or she is used to operating. Some say one's better than the others, but safety-wise, this is a huge thing to be able to change this back and forth to whatever the operator is used to. If I run backhoe loader controls, with the hit of the button, I can change those to backhoe loader controls. Again, changing those back to whatever I would like. Tool selection, that's a huge thing. So work tools, we talked about all kinds of work tools that we can put on these machines, whether we have a tilt bucket, maybe some hammers, some shears, some thumbs. So controllability of those. The great thing about these machines is we have the ability to control the flows and the parameters inside of this machine. Just changing those through the service mode and having that at our fingertips is a huge, huge thing for these machines. So it depends on the parameters that the machine needs. We're able to change those in the monitor, which is a huge thing for these machines. So that's a little bit about kind of the monitor that you would see. Again, this is an 8-inch monitor that you would see. It's got the same controllability that you would normally have. And we've covered mainly all the controls that we have mainly on our right-hand side. With that being said, I would say we're ready to start the machine now. It's a push button toggle. We can hit that. Earlier we talked a little bit about the work tools, so how that works. Mainly we have our switch, it's on our left-hand side over here that we're able to use. So right now we're going to give a little bit of a demonstration on how we can remove the bucket. Typically I'll kind of swing it over to the left a little bit just so I can maybe grab onto that a little bit more. You'll hear the buzzer go off. All I have to do is pull that. I gave it a curl function of all the way curled. My monitor is going to go off. It's saying quick coupler is unlocking. Mainly I would unlock that. Just like that. I have my bucket on. The bucket is off. That's still going to stay on if, let's say I was going to lift a structure, a heavy structure. I use that same switch. I would want to curl the bucket one more time and deadhead the cylinder to get the alarm to go off. It's going to say quick coupler is locked, verify lock work tool. That way, whenever I want to move around and do whatever I need to do for heavy structures, I could have that alarm off and I'm ready to go. So same thing, hooking back up, flick of a switch again over here on my left-hand side, all the way curl. I'd want to pick this back up. Give it that curl function, lock it. All I got to do is hit it and hold it. Typically I try and give it that same curl that I did to get it off. I wait for the buzzer to go off. And then the big thing is verifying your work tool. So always checking your work tool. Just a little bit of pressure down, that always helps. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to give, again, we talked about the compact radius. So on these machines, this is kind of gives you a view of what the tail swing is on these. So that's exactly 90 degrees of this machine. It gives you a good view of what the tail swing is on here and how tight we can get into areas. Again, we have our just our normal push button start that we're used to. So we want to turn that over to the left. The machine is done now. Coming out of the machine, nice, easy, 3 points of contact, good visibility in the cab. Again, we have our light that looks on there in case we're working after dark, after hours. Nice, easy, safe to get out. Okay, so that was our walk around on this machine. Thank you, Tormont, for giving us the opportunity to introduce this 315 GC compact radius machine. If we have any questions, please put those into the chat and we'll get to those as soon as we can. Again, thank you.
All right, thanks Brian very much for that detailed walk around on the 315 GC. We're pretty excited about that new excavator coming into our territory. I'd like to thank you, our customers, for taking time out of your busy schedules to tune in and listen to what we had to say. Hopefully you got something out of it and it was worth your while. If you want to look up some more information, have a look in that resources window and check out what's there on these 3 products that we talked about.